remarkable. The second case is really a much more common case that we tend to see as gastroenterologists, and it's someone taking ibuprofen. I'm sure that many of you have taken ibuprofen. It's a wonderful drug. I take it if my back is sore, my knees are sore after running or what have you. But this lady had been taking it because of joint pain. And she'd been taking quite a bit of it. And she presented to the emergency department complaining of lightheadedness. Her stools had changed color and she had belly pain. And this constellation of symptoms and signs really suggests to us an ulcer. And so we actually did an endoscopy and we saw a bleeding ulcer. And the way that we treat it is by injecting the ulcer with epinephrine, with adrenaline. And the reason we do that is that drug induces the blood vessels to contract so that the blood stops coming out and allows us to then get a clean view and then intervene, whether it be with clips or cautery. But what's really remarkable is that as soon as we give those injections, the heart starts racing away. So all the alarms start bing-bonging behind us in the endoscopy suite. So we know that even though we're giving it for a local effect, there are clearly systemic effects following that injection. And so putting these two elements together, we developed a basic concept, which was around capsules that give an injection from inside. And this at the time seemed a little bit outlandish, and we tried to de-risk this. So we created these prototypes. We did some basic modeling and some of the basic aspects of the system, and we fed them to pigs. The pigs did fine. There was no injury. And then we injected insulin, actually, in different parts of the GI tract. And so our vision at the time was, could we create capsules that administer drugs that today require an injection? And this was really reassuring, but there were a lot of key sort of challenges left on the table. And these can be broken up into three areas. So one is we needed a device that could engage the mucosa, could engage the tissue in a predictable way and a reliable way in everyone. Number two, we needed that device to autonomously trigger, and therefore we needed a material that could sense its environment potentially and then trigger an injection event. And then number three, we needed to deliver a drug. And we needed to do it in a form factor that was small enough so that the device could transit safely through the GI tract. So let me just walk you through how we did this. So on how to engage, we took a page actually from the leopard tortoise and weeble wobbles. And here, actually, there was a lot of modeling, even though you see a cartoon here, there was a lot of modeling and optimization on the shape as well as the density distribution of an optimal device that could self-orient and remain in that self-oriented state across a range of stresses, whether it be movement, disturbance with liquid. And we developed prototypes. We tested those systems using high-speed photography. We tested them in animals, in pigs also. And we found that our optimization and the modeling we had done really translated into effective devices that could self-orient in a reliable way in spite of the animals being moved or, for example, other stresses being imposed on these systems in the stomach. Now, the next challenge was, well, how do we sense that environment? How do we trigger a device to give an injection? And the cue that we settled on was humidity, in that we recognize that everybody's stomach is humid. And so we needed to identify a material that could sense that, but at the same time could actually store energy. And potentially what we initially thought was actually storing energy from a compressed spring. And so we wanted a material that displayed brittle fracture mechanics so that it could actually hold, essentially retain that energy. And then upon exposure in a human environment, we would have the capacity to control its dissolution and therefore time that injection event. So we identified sugar glass. So I want you to think candy cane, not taffy, as that material, and actually we modeled how this dissolution occurs and actually experimentally showed that we could control how these systems would trigger. So I want to show you here some high-speed photography and as an example of how we went from sort of that initial concept to some initial basic modeling to actually benchtop testing that then we actually translated in vivo. And finally, the challenge we had was, how do we fit enough drug in this system? And so typically insulin and monoclonal antibodies and other drugs that require injection, they're generally administered in a liquid format. And so we looked at the challenge and actually we swung completely the other way. And so we actually honed in on solid formulations and created very small needles that were up to 100% insulin, in this case, as the initial description. And we showed that we could deliver these systems, or I should say the drug, using these systems in pigs and achieve levels that were comparable to an injection. And we did quite a bit of modeling also on the mechanics as far as interaction with tissue that then we evaluated in stomachs, both from pigs, but also actually human tissue. So with that, we developed a self-orienting system that's capable of sensing its environment and then autonomously triggering an injection event. So let me pause there, but hopefully that